Hey, want a cookie? Oh, I know you just ate, so you're craving something a little sweet. Besides, one cookie isn't gonna kill you. How about half? Just a bite? Bite it. Bite it. Bite it.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. Your affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on a path to successful weight loss by quieting food noise.
Bite it.
Shh. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
And we're recording. All right. So this is a special episode of Partners in True Crime. We have breaking news. Breaking news on the Molly Miller and Colt Haynes case. If anybody has not been on social media and who's not affiliated with this case and you're living under a rock, we just found out some interesting information. The BIA, who has been on this case for years now and who basically took it over from the OSBI and the local authorities and really never gave up, and we knew they weren't going to give up. Apparently, they, according to news sources and our reports on the ground, they found human remains near Long Hollow Road and Pike Road, very close to where the car where Molly and Colt and Con Nip left the car, and they ran in their different directions. We don't know the exact location yet. Information is very fluid. We're talking to people, family members, and people on the ground, and hopefully we'll have some of the investigators on this podcast to talk about this. But it's a banner day in this case. It's both bittersweet because it's some proof that we coming to a resolution in this case, but also the resolution is that these remains could be Molly and Colt, and we haven't had confirmation about that, but a lot of the talk on the ground is centering around that, and so we felt it's important for us to kind of talk about it since we've been on this case for 8 years now, since we did the Molly Miller and Colt Haynes episode for Up and Vanished on Oxygen. But Cindy and I, we got the news yesterday, and we were dumbfounded. We didn't know how to react, being so involved in this case. And this woman in the other box here, Jody Barth, who has been with us thick and thin on this. She's former investigators, like Illinois. Her credits are in the law enforcement are huge, and she's done a lot of investigation with us on this, and both on this and on the current NOAA case too, and literally the county next over. So it's been crazy to get all the crosstalk between these two cases right now. But Jody, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's something we've all been waiting for and hoping for, and in a bittersweet sort of way. But let's hope we get quick confirmation. Not to keep everybody in suspense too long, but I feel in my bones that this is it. So that's a good day for the investigation.
Yeah, we're hopeful. I mean, it does feel like this could potentially be it finally after all this time. But it is overwhelming, when we got the call that they were down there and that they actually found something, because we've been down there. We did it. We drained a pond. We searched. We went through mud and, brush, and we've been with Paula for 8 years, and we've on the phone multiple times a day. It's very emotional. Paula and Misty became like family to us, and it's been a very emotional thing. And after 13 years, this is the point. You just don't give up. You never give up.
Right.
When you love goes missing, you just don't give up. And that's the thing. People don't realize it's never going to go away. Don't think just because you think that those people, no one cares about them. There's always someone that cares about that person.
And what's amazing here is that when we started this case, the BIA was not even involved. involved. The Bureau of Indian Affairs was not being involved. We had the OSBI, we had the local law enforcement, and we covered in our podcast how we felt like they didn't give this case due diligence. You have the sheriff at the time, who was eventually taken away from his job. I mean, he waited like a couple weeks, he thought, before really actually investigated it. And then he said they went to Wichita Falls. And so it was the fact that the BIA came in, and we all had a good feeling about the BIA, specifically this one agent who we hope will talk to us and kind of give us more information on the investigation. But it's been an odyssey with this case, because there's been so much misinformation, and and if I have to give Paula Felder her credit, because she's been on this case from day one.
And Misty too.
The
two of them. I mean, they went out in the woods. I mean, they did things that were dangerous. They put themselves in danger, and they constantly were just gonna fight the fight. And Paula, she took a lot of heat from a lot of different people. Law enforcement got in her face. People were threatening her on a daily basis. They're still threatening her. I mean, it's just, she didn't care. She's a force to be reckoned with.
Well, and quite honestly, I mean, that might ramp up even now, that might ramp up again, because now there's going to be new issues to climb here.
Well, sure.
If it is them, now the next step is there anybody to prosecute?
So you've been in these investigations before where you found human remains. What goes on after that when they find them?
Okay, so the first thing that goes on is everything stops, and they'll bring in crime scene technicians, crime scene CSIs, investigators, and they'll do a complete, very meticulous removal of those remains. There'll be lots of photographs, there'll be sketches, there'll be videos, there'll be all kinds of things, but they'll do a meticulous reconstruction. Basically, they'll take that apart one piece at a time. And of course, there'll be autopsies on whatever remains are available, or x-ray. The whole forensic gamut will come into play heavily here. From an investigative standpoint, obviously, it depends on the circumstances of how they found them. If it came from a tip, if it, what information got them there, if any, or if it was just a general search, I don't know. But from the ground, everything stops for a while until they not only want to identify the remains, but from an investigative standpoint, at this point, you've got to be thinking about a criminal prosecution. So you want to take, and especially after 13 years, I know the terrain, but I don't know the circumstances around where they found them. So I don't know if they were buried. I don't know if they were, exposed. I don't know any of that, but all that'll come into play, and they'll go layer by layer, piece by piece, and it'll take a while to do that. So you want to get all the possible evidence you can.
So this is just kind of like the beginning then.
It is the beginning. It is the beginning. And it's not a fast procedure. I mean, you just can't, because especially in an outdoor scene like that, it's gone through, there's all kinds of contamination that will have occurred. You're going to want to, they may have metal. I'm sure they probably have metal detectors out there. They should be going through this with a fine-tooth comb to see what they can, you're looking for evidence. And after 13 years, that's hard to find.
I think also, on our podcast, we uncovered a lot of recordings that were shared with us from witnesses and from potential witnesses. And a lot of them had similar theories about Molly potentially being shot. We actually have a 911 recording of someone explaining exactly how Molly was shot.
Right.
A bullet unfortunately, through her mouth into her head. Is there a way, if, let's say, they found these remains, would they be able to find any ballistic evidence on those remains that could coincide with that story?
It's very possible. Now, I don't know how graphic to get here. I don't want to get too graphic, but the skull is virtually an enclosed sphere. So if there's just an entrance and no exit, theoretically and quite possibly or probably, there will be the bullet will be still there inside the cranium, inside the
If they
skull.
found the skull, we don't know what they found. But based upon the reports of that 911 call and some of the other things that we've heard about, we don't know
Yeah.
what body parts they found. They found human remains, and they felt obviously confident enough to kind of release it to the press that they're confident that they have something.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's entirely possible. Now, there could also be, it could be an exit wound if there's something there. Maybe, it's hard to tell. But could the bullet still be there? Yes. If it was someplace else after 13 years, the bullet may still be in the area. It may still be with whatever remains are left, but that's going to be they'll use x-rays. They may use metal detectors. If it's there, they'll find it.
Well, what I want to talk about is the actual effort, because obviously we're not in Oklahoma. We've been getting calls all week, and obviously the local news did a report on it, basically showing videos of all the vehicles going down there. Obviously, we know a
Right.
lot of people down there, so we were getting calls from them. But according to this, there was like two kind of buses full of men, and women, volunteers that came in there from different law enforcement. We know the FBI was down there. Obviously, the BIA was down there. So it was a pretty coordinated effort. And it sounds like everything the BIA has been doing for the past years, they've been really kind of game planning this for a while. And I know they went out, there was reports they went out a few months ago and in the same area, and they didn't find anything. So this is like their second attempt here. And 2 days into what they said they were going to be there they got there Tuesday. They said they were going to be there Friday. Like literally a day and a half. That's when we started getting the phone calls that they may have found something. And then the news reports came out literally the next day. So I just think it's amazing. I don't think any of us here right now, I mean, I didn't think they were ever going to find anything based upon all the preliminary reports we got and the testimonies of people talking about what they could have done to the bodies and the horrific, horrible things we're hearing from Paula's investigation, the people she got on tape. And I don't think any of us thought that there would be anything left. And they're talking about feeding them to hogs and it was all this.
I mean, we drained a pond. We thought they were in the pond.
Yeah.
I mean, we had so many tips that led us to that watering hole. And we were really despondent after that search because we thought for sure we would have found something, something small, anything. So after that search with Maureen O'Connell and Sharon McCollum, we were thinking, gosh, maybe we're never going to find anything here.
Well, we did find something. We thought it was an ear. Remember? We found some dogs. We had 2 sets of cadaver dogs coming from 2 different parts of Oklahoma, federally accredited, and they all hit on Toby's pond, like after we drained like crazy. So, but
we're so grateful for the BIA to take on this case. I mean, it was such a relief that they did because we were so stressed about this. Like, what's going to happen? Nothing. And they took it and ran with it. I mean, they're really incredible people to do this. It's amazing.
They've done an incredible job. And I will tell you from experience, there is no better feeling than what they're feeling today, even though it's sad. When you have success on something like this, it's it's an incredible feeling, and they deserve every bit of credit. They've done a great job. This was not an easy case.
No.
Not after 13 years.
No.
Nothing is easy.
No.
So, I mean, I thought when I thought that they were probably there on maybe some pretty credible, I don't know if it was credible information or just through working the investigation, if they had zeroed in, but it seemed like, to me, I was very hopeful when I heard that they were the scope of this search and how they were conducting it. I was very hopeful that they were going to have success. And I was telling Rob this morning, the last I had heard was, they said they were going to be there till Friday. And I realized this morning it was Friday, and I was bummed because I thought, oh my gosh, if they don't have success, I don't know if they'll come back.
I know.
So,
it seemed like one shot, one and done.
It's a miracle.
But getting back to when we went, how the BIA got involved in this is when we went to drain Toby's pond, and we're there for 3 days, and one of the other cadaver dog handlers who we brought down, who volunteered, he was a federally accredited one, who actually worked with the BIA and works with the BIA. He came down there that night, and we were going to search the next morning. And then he started telling us, he goes, hey, listen, he goes, this is going to change. I just got a phone call. And he was the one, it was the first tip that this thing was going to get taken over federally by the BIA. And literally within the next week, they started getting all the information. And they, because of Molly, because she's part Chickasaw, they found a way of involving them in the case. And I just have to say, there's, I don't want to mention his name yet, but he's the BIA agent. And, I've spoken to him a few times regarding this case, and he has always been, he never told me anything, but based upon our conversations with him, I knew that he had the type of resolve to really look into the case. I mean, just taking an objective, unemotional, hard look at everything that was out there, because he went back to the beginning. He went back to all of it. And he is, for the past, how long has it been since we went to Toby's like that? It's like
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, at least 3 years. Yeah.
In that time, and we wouldn't hear from him for months, or anything, and then something would pop up, and he'd ask me a question about something, and I'd say, yeah, here, and then I wouldn't hear from him for months. So I had no idea what he was doing, but back in our minds, I just knew that he was on it. He was on it. And
well, they've done incredible work, and I can't thank them enough, because literally I think of this case every day. I still have always thought of this case every day, wondering what we missed. Did we forget, did we miss something obvious? And so this is incredible.
Well, it's really the no body thing. We had no body. So you have nothing. You're working in space. It's just like when we worked the Jennifer Kesse case, we did a story on that. I mean, those poor people, those family who we still talk to, they still, they're getting closer. And I hear there's a lot of information that they're getting, but their case is old as too, and they're still chugging away, and they're still fighting. And I think that's the big lesson here for anybody who's thrust into this horrible possible situation where you have a loved one that you think is dead and missing, and you can't find them. The message is, don't give up. Don't give up. Definitely don't give up.
No, you can't. I mean, Paula is honestly, I found Paula in 2018 when I was doing research for our series on Oxygen. It was an Up and Vanished television series. And it was a news report of Paula talking about, we're never going to give up. We're going to fight for Molly forever. And I was like, who is this woman? Like, what is this story? I've never heard of the story. We're talking 5 years after it had happened. Never heard of it before, never knew anything about it. And I think that that's what the people who are the perpetrators here were counting on. I think they were counting on the fact that no one would hear about this story. They could just kill Molly and Colt, and they were expendable people to them. And they figured, oh, we can just toss them away. Like many women who are Indigenous women, there's a massive problem in the Native American community of missing women. So I think that they just figured, well, Molly, who cares? No one's going to come look for her. But when we saw Paula on that clip, it was like, wow, who is this woman? And when we started digging in and we saw that there was a corrupt sheriff and there was all this stuff that had happened and we just couldn't believe it, had never hit the mainstream media, had never been reported on, had never been on any ID show, had never been on any Oxygen show, had never been covered in true crime world at all. So we were like, oh my God, we need to look into this. And when we started to look into it with Paula, we couldn't believe the amount of work that she had done with her cousins and how much work that they had, how much risk they had done. They put their lives in jeopardy multiple times, going and chasing down drug dealers and getting in the face of law enforcement, people threatening to kill them constantly. And so after that show was over and Rob, we were talking to Paula, like, what else can we do to help you? And we had never done a podcast before. We had taken the first podcast and made it a TV show, the first TV show based on a podcast, but we had never done a podcast until we met Paula. And once we started going, we just couldn't believe how much information was ignored in this case. And it is ironic though, that through Molly and Colt's case, we ended up getting in contact with Noah Presgrove's family. And it's in the same area. It's in the same
county next door.
Right. It's the same type of situation. Here you have this young, handsome man who was killed and murdered brutally on the side of the road, and everybody's ignoring it, like they just pretending it didn't happen, and the family's struggling still, and no answers. Right? It's the same type of energy that we were dealing with Molly and Colt, and with Molly and Colt, it became pretty intense for us too. We were getting threatened, we were getting harassed. We didn't care. We're like, well, whatever. We don't care. We're not going to let people intimidate us. You know, you can't, and that's the thing. And Paula never did, and neither did Misty. They just fought and fought. And look, now finally, and if it wasn't for the BIA really taking an interest in this case after so many years, it's extraordinary. Honestly, it really is extraordinary.
I'm convinced if they didn't get involved, this would never. And granted, we still have all the information about who the remains are.
Right.
But it's.
Well, they found somebody. So, I mean, the fact that they put all that manpower behind it to go search for Molly and Colt. Says something to me.
And it's in the area. It's in the area that we stood in the area that they've been searching. We've been there. Lots of people. There've been other people searching in that area. So it's like
And I don't think there's any other outstanding missing in that area now. In that general area.
We don't know. I mean, it could be we're being speculative that it's Molly and Colt. We don't know for sure. It could be but we're just happy that there is movement and that there's interest and that there's manpower behind these searches looking for them still. It hasn't been just languished like it has been. We stopped the podcast on Molly and Colt a year and a half ago because we kind of hit a wall and we were like, well, where else can we go? Remember, Joey? We were like, what else can we do?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I've racked my brain, like I said, every day, just thinking about that. It's like, okay, what didn't we do? What didn't? And it is increasingly harder to find the answers when you don't have a body. I mean, that's so much harder than when you have a body. In Noah's case, we have a body. But we have some similarities with regard to the what happened with law enforcement right after. So, that's a terribly sad case as well. And I hope that is definitely solvable in my mind.
Yeah.
We just have to find somebody to take it because apparently, the law enforcement has closed their case on it.
Yeah. But
that's a whole nother thing. But
Molly and Colt, they never really closed it. They weren't investigating it. They kept telling Paula for all these years, it's an open investigation, but they weren't doing anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sure didn't seem like it, it just sure didn't seem like it.
That's why I'm just
just for the sheriff to come out without doing anything on it, without doing a thing on it, and come out and say they're in Wichita Falls. I mean, he didn't even search. He didn't conduct even a preliminary search.
Nope.
And that's what the news picked up. And that's exactly what happened. So the news picked that story up from the sheriff when they went missing. And that's why it never hit the mainstream, because the affiliates were like, oh, well, these are just 2 runaway kids. Forget about it. The sheriff is the one that concocted that story because his cousin was the driver of the car.
Just think if when that happened at that time, if they had the same level of horsepower that the Savannah Guthrie's mother had, they would have found something very quickly.
Well, let's just say this though. What happened to Savannah Guthrie's mother is horrifying. Our prayers are with that family. I feel every time I see it, it's heartbreaking to watch. But saying that, we've worked on so many missing persons cases that it is a little frustrating for a lot of these families who don't get that horsepower, right? Like Molly and Colt family, like Jennifer Kessie's family, the list can go on. I mean, we have so many people we've been working with over the past 10 years that it's sad. And maybe that's something that we need to think about as a country here, is that we need to come up with a better solution for missing persons and not have the protocol that we have now, because it doesn't work.
Well, right. And I mean, this case was very unusual in that the primary jurisdiction for law enforcement was the prime suspect at the time was his cousin.
Yeah.
So, and plus we already knew from past experiences with how he treated when Con would get into, there was a variety of stolen vehicles and stuff that, were recovered from the property, and the results were always the same. So this was an unusual case when you have that kind of relationship with the person who's primarily responsible for the investigation.
Yeah. I mean,
it was incredible. But I have to say, that I wasn't particularly impressed with when other law enforcement got involved, how they handled it either. It just seemed like it was a rushed kind of, I don't know. I just didn't like what I saw with regard to the investigation.
No. And then when we were boots on the ground down there, we were doing the television show, and we'd been down that area now a few times since then. I mean, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel,
Con Nip had a laser on my head. He had a shotgun pointed at my head.
No, it wasn't a shotgun, babe. It was a rifle.
All right, well, whatever. A gun pointed at my head for the entire time that we were there.
It's on tape.
And it's like, why? If you don't have anything to do with this and you're not involved and you're innocent, like you claim that you are, then why are you doing all this? In fact, we heard from boots on the ground the other day that someone was starting a fire right there too when they started searching. And you got to wonder why. Crazy. Here we go again. It's very similar to the other case, right? Like, why are these people saying all these things? Why are they deflecting all these things? Why won't you help a victim's family find their loved ones or find answers to what happened to their loved one? I don't understand. Right. It makes no sense.
That's when you don't do basic searches of the last place that they were seen, and that's in both cases that we're talking about, there's something terribly wrong there. That's where you would start your investigation, other than the crime scene itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and we didn't really they did have a crime scene here, with where the car was left, but there was no real search done there.
No, and that was found later.
Right. And we know the car sat there for a while. it didn't, it was moved. We know that it was moved,
That's
but
yeah. I mean, you're a big proponent on that car was moved.
Well, I think
oh,
because
I know it was moved. I know that car was moved.
moved, right? I mean, let's think about it, right? 2 weeks later, Paula is searching with her family and her friends. And now
Right.
all of a sudden they're like, oh, Paula, the car is over here. What do you mean the car is over here? You didn't know that for the past 2 weeks that the car was where it is? And
Right.
the night that it happened, Colt was calling all his friends. Molly was calling all her friends. Everybody was calling everybody, come and pick us up, find us, come find us. So they knew people were looking for them. They knew people were out there. So why wouldn't they move the car? Why wouldn't
if you're
it doesn't make any sense. It wasn't even Khan's car. It was his girlfriend's car.
It was his, right. And we know that timeline, and we know when the car, that's when they moved the car, when it was reported stolen.
Exactly.
I think.
Of course they did. It makes no sense.
Right.
What's going to be interesting,
and they were coordinating that. We know they were coordinating that.
What's going to be interesting now is the fallout from this. If these remains do become Molly or Colt, we don't know who it is, but where the investigation is going and whether or not this is going to help other people kind of come forward.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I think they're going to, I mean, they may get very lucky with the physical evidence, but 13 years is a long time to have viable physical evidence. But if there's a bullet, there will be ballistics that will be able to be run. But,
I just always go back to that recording.
There's issues there.
I'm
sorry, what?
I always go back to that 911 call, because to me, that 911 call.
And the one you're talking about is the one that was sent from Colby Barrack's phone to the 911 of County.
Right. And them
from Moxie
Lake, and they were describing in detail what they had done to Molly. So that's why I'm saying, like, if there's any evidence that can be matched up with what that story was, because they didn't know they were being recorded at that time. They didn't know that they'd called 911. We don't know if that was an accident or if they called on purpose. We don't know. All we know is that we have a recording of it. And in that 911 call, Colby Barrack and the other two people that he is with are saying very clearly what had happened. They describe what had happened to Molly. So maybe if these remains do belong to Molly and Colt, maybe they'll be able to see if there was any kind of bullet wound to her. And maybe then they can compare that to that story. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an investigator, but
I remember that Paula did tell us on the podcast that they do have Molly's dental records, which is great.
Right.
Talk us through that. Let's just say they can match it. How does that work, and how long does that take?
So identifying through dental records is much quicker usually. I mean, virtually, probably her dentist or any competent dentist could do it, because they'll be comparing the teeth that's left in the skull. They'll be comparing those with the dental records, mainly the x-rays. So it's just, think about a tool mark or a ballistic. It's the same thing as a tool mark identification or a ballistic identification. You're looking to compare individual points of identification from one thing to another. So where teeth are concerned, you're looking fillings, missing teeth, bridges, things like that, where there's been work done by a dentist on her mouth. They're gonna match that physically to what's left in the human remains. And that's, like I said, a dentist can do that. They'll probably I'm sure it'll be a forensic dentist, probably through the medical examiner's office. But that's a fairly quick identification process.
We do know, based on the news reports, that the medical examiner was out there during the search.
Right.
So that's
is that normal protocol, Jody?
This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife? Feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But it's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI's not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. Their clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. They offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions that isn't one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will find that their mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the healthcare they deserve. Because they believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It is the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Well, in Illinois, it wouldn't be because they don't have a medical examiner system except for Cook County, which is Chicago. The rest of Illinois are coroners, and they don't even have to be doctors. They have pathologists that work for the coroners. And that would have been done, like in our case, we would take it back to the forensic pathologist, and they would make those identifications. But in this particular case, when I saw that the medical examiner's office was involved in this, I felt very confident that maybe they had some credible information that they were acting on. So I don't think I'm not sure in Oklahoma. I know they have medical examiners that go out to the scenes always, but I don't they don't send a forensic crew out on every search. I'm pretty sure of that. So,
Yeah. And just to give an idea for the audience, this is not like someone's backyard they're searching. We're talking thousands of acres.
right.
Thousands of acres, like cattle country. This is, it's rolling. It's not flat. It's thick brush. It's filled with rattlesnakes and all these threats. It's not like, this sweeping fields that they can just kind of walk in like an arm to arm. Like I've seen that before, where they take people from the cadets from the academy and they walk arm's length and they just walk through the woods. This is tough terrain. So it's like they did their homework.
Yeah, it's tornado country. So all that land has been ripped up and thrown around and tousled around over the past 13 years. I've never seen storms like that when we were there last year. I just couldn't believe it. It's incredible. So
Yeah,
that terrain is, like Rob's saying, it's tough.
Yeah, and we don't know.
it's rough terrain.
We don't know whether they found them and they dug them up, whether they were just they were in brushes or they were in a creek, or we have none of that information right now. And hopefully, as the investigation unfolds, and they'll start releasing that. And but all I can say is kudos to the BIA, kudos to anybody out there that volunteered. And I got to give Toby Thomas, I got to give him such props. I mean, he kind of jumped on this case with us on the podcast because he lives right there. He actually, when we did the Moxley Pond thing, he flipped the bill for draining the pond and bringing in a backhoe. He put us up there in his lodge right on his thing, and we brought in Maureen O'Connell, retired FBI, and Cheryl McCall, CSI, and it was like even they were saying, as far as an operation, it was like, this is great. So the fact that all of those resources were coalesced so quickly and put together, it gives you hope. It gives you hope that when bad things happen, good people rise to the surface, and we got a lot of heroes here. I mean,
yeah. I mean, Toby was amazing, and his family were amazing. All of them were lovely people, and they didn't forget about it. Like that, we were out there several years ago, and he has consistently pursued trying to get answers too, because he lives there.
Yeah,
he has children there, I mean, and he's a good person, and his family, they're good people. And so,
and even the other people that live in that area that we met when they're there, and they would always have eyes on that area. Anything that came up, they would call us, they would call Paula, and then, anything that we felt was relevant, we would give to the BIA, and we would never hear anything result, but we're just like, hey, listen, said this, they said they saw that, they said this, here it is. So, but like Paula did in the beginning with the local law enforcement, OSBI, a lot of stuff got missing. I mean, she was giving them evidence, and they were, there's still missing evidence,
The OSBI. OSBI, right?
The OSBI and the local. She was giving stuff to Love County in the beginning. So it was just like they were giving, you're giving the cat the food.
Right.
They were just like,
it was an impossible situation. I mean, once OHP, I know OHP's involvement in this particular case was kind of isolated to the chase, the car chase and all of that.
And because of them, they were able to arrest Con Nip.
Well, that's OHP.
OHP, yes.
Right. So
Ronnie
they
Hampton
were
specifically.
Yeah.
Right. So their part was done. I mean, it was OSBI that was brought in to investigate the disappearance. And but they didn't come right in right away because the sheriff didn't give it up. I mean, they can't, there's jurisdictional issues, and you can't just overstep a sheriff, just like the FBI can't overstep just to come in unless there's a federal reason for them to come in. So it was kind of an impossible situation given the prime suspects at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the local law enforcement.
That's a good point to make, because everybody wants to point the finger and blame everybody all the time, but there are jurisdictions, and the sheriff at the time was cousins with the guy who was driving the car.
Right.
The last person to see Molly and Colt alive. So there is a conflict of interest there, and so maybe it's a matter of coming up with laws that don't allow for that. If there's a conflict of interest where you should recuse yourself, he should have been recused.
He make no mistake, the sheriff should never have had to been told to recuse himself on this one. He should have stepped up right from the car chase and handed it over to the state. He didn't do that.
No, Ronnie Hampton, the OHP we talked to on on the television show, that was the first thing he said.
Another hero in this case was Ronnie Hampton.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Ronnie Hampton, Con Nip wouldn't have gone to jail for that second chase. Mm-hmm. And he was the same way. He was dogged about it. He met Paula, and he was going to try to help and do what he can, just like the BIA did. And it's incredible. There are good law enforcement people. I want people to remember that. It's not all people like the sheriff, the bad sheriff. It's unfortunately
the majority of law enforcement are good people that put their lives on the line for strangers every day and every night. They really are. There's bad in every profession has bad apples. Law enforcement isn't, is no different.
It's the human condition.
It is the human condition, right? And in this case, it was so obvious right from the get-go. I mean, the sheriff even called off the chase. So, he knew exactly where they were going. So that was wrong from the beginning, and a sheriff, and I know he knew better.
Yeah.
I mean,
of course,
he wasn't a brand new sheriff. He knew.
Yeah. He was there for 16 years.
Right. Yeah.
It was like he had his own little, feudal system in that small part of Oklahoma, because it's an agricultural area, it's rural, and most people were like, oh yeah, he's the guy, I'll vote for him. I mean, it's like they don't pay them anything. They don't pay the deputies anything. I mean, we've spoken to a lot of
Right.
work there, and they don't have the training. This guy did not have
Right.
training. And as we can see from some of the pitfalls from the Guthrie case, I mean, the sheriff in Pima County, I mean, listen, no one has to be an expert to say that maybe this guy didn't handle this properly.
Right.
You can see it just when he's
You
doing
can see it.
you can see it, and you're like, all right. And then you hear a real investigator talk on the other side, and they're like, oh yeah. So,
But Jody, for Molly and Colt, since you were with us from the beginning on this, what did you ever feel was the most glaring piece of evidence, or what stuck with you the most about this case that was driving you crazy? Because I know there's a lot of things.
Well, I always felt that they were close by. I just always felt they were there. The fact that the land where they knew the chase ended was never properly searched was the biggest sticking point for me, because I just always felt that they were there someplace. These guys aren't mafia hitmen, I just felt like they were, whatever happened near the car, I think. I've always thought that. And it was never properly searched until now that I know of. I mean, maybe it was, but I don't think it was.
Yeah.
So, and then we had, now who knows what would have happened if that first search warrant would have been granted? Would they have, because if I'm not mistaken, are we talking kind of in the same area?
Yeah, similar area. Yeah, similar area, similar property areas. Yeah.
Right.
I agree. I agree.
Who knows if they would have done that if that weren't?
Yeah, but who knows who would have been searching it? That's the problem. I think
Right.
I don't think they would have gotten the same result, because I'm telling you, this was, according to what people are telling me, this is the largest search in Oklahoma history, with the amount of
I believe it.
and the amount of people down there, the amount of tech that's been down there, the way they handled it. And so this is, they're going to be using this as a training device too. And apparently textbook. And apparently everybody bought into the process. And there's nothing better there's nothing more powerful when you have law enforcement uniting for one common goal, So
right.
That's the only way you really do it. And I can't give them enough credit for this, especially, talking a 13-year-old case,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the odds of solving it after 13 years are so slim, but I give them props. They did a great job. You can tell that they stuck with the investigation. I still think I'd be surprised if this was just a fluke and they just happened on them. I think that, they kind of had a targeted area maybe. But I don't know that, obviously. Yeah. But I just the way it was handled, I think that they went in with a purpose. Yeah. They were expecting, I think they were expecting to come out with this finding.
Yeah. Well, I know they didn't have a warrant, so they had to get permission. So that alone was a Herculean task. So
right. And that people don't understand that you just can't get a warrant because you think something happened. You have to have probable cause, and probable cause is a subjective thing, but you have to be able to connect. First of all, you have to show why you think a crime occurred. And then you have to show cause that where you're searching, either the person you're searching or the place you're searching was involved in that crime. So when you don't have a body and nobody else is talking, it's very difficult to do that, even to get a search warrant for where the car was. Now, the car, was involved in a crime. So that might have been their best shot, because the car was reported stolen. So it was a stolen car. That's a crime. So maybe you could have gotten a warrant for the area right around the car.
Yeah, but
but they didn't. They didn't even search it, as far as I know. I mean, until I don't know if they ever searched it, actually.
All right, so we don't know where they found the human remains, but now that they found human remains, wherever they have, walk us through finally, like, what happens to that site now? That's a crime scene, and then what do they have to do?
So they'll have to work that crime scene, and they'll follow the evidence, whatever they have here. They'll keep it secured until they're, especially since they have permission and not a warrant. At this point, they may actually have gone back and gotten a warrant. Once they found the human remains, they may have applied for and received a warrant to get him back on the property and expand the search. I don't know if they did that because they had permission to be there, but if I would have done that. Once I actually found the remains, I would have gone to a court and gotten a warrant.
To lock it down.
To lock it down. And then you're there for as long as you need to be there. You don't want to leave. You can't leave the scene and come back at will. I mean, if you leave the scene for any reason, you have to make sure it's secured. You have to have a chain of custody now for everything you find, everything you do has to be documented. So they will work that crime scene until they think they've got everything. And then it'll be turned back to the owner eventually. You know, that's what will happen once they leave there. You know, that once they've withdrawn from the scene, they'll turn it back to the owner.
It's amazing. Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we
Amazing.
just pray it's Molly and Colt so we can get some answers here.
Oh, I do. I would be so disappointed if I hate to say that because that sounds horrible, but I'd be disappointed if it wasn't.
You know?
Right.
But I don't know.
I'd be surprised if it's not. If it's not them, I would be surprised.
Yeah. Crazy.
And I'm curious. I mean, they're gonna want to try to prove cause of death, manner of death, all that has to be done. And you know, the cause of death is the actual injuries, or you know, the events that caused their death, whether that was with a gun or strangulation or a knife or whatever. That's the cause of death. And then they have to determine the manner of death, which in this case would probably more than likely be homicide. But they have to do that legally.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, this is just the beginning of this.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's like one of those things where like, it's like, I can't even, like I said, when we heard the news, we weren't sure if it was real or not.
Right.
You
yeah.
know?
I know that.
I know.
I
And
know
it's
that
like
feeling.
we're like on pins and needles waiting. Is it them? Is it them? Is it them? We don't know. And that's the thing. It's like they found human remains in the area where we believe that they are, or they were, but yet without that confirmation, it's still very nerve-wracking.
Right. I mean, they may wait for DNA confirmation on both of them. I don't know. But dental, if they have dental is it's a reliable form of identification. I mean, if there's any tissue left, you can always do fingerprints too. I doubt that there's any tissue.
I would imagine after 13 years, whatever it was, if you know.
Well, you know, that's an interesting thought because it depends. It depends where they were. It depends how they were covered, if they were covered. It depends how the body decomposed. Did it decompose through decomposition, or did it decompose through a mummification process, which has to do with the environment around the body more than anything? If it's mummified, chances are there might be some tissues left. There might be prints left where they would be able to rehydrate that and possibly get fingerprints off of it. That's a positive form of ID. I doubt it. I doubt that's the case, but it's possible. Even in 13-year-old bodies, it depends how they decompose. It depends the environment that they've been in. If they've been exposed, probably not.
Yeah.
Unless their tissues were protected in some way.
Yeah.
But so they might wait for DNA. I have no idea what they're going to do, but a dental is a positive means of identification. Fingerprints are a positive means, and DNA is positive, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So we'll keep everyone updated as soon as
Yeah.
we hear.
Yeah. This is crazy, but yeah, fingers
I'll
crossed,
be,
and say
yeah,
prayers for the Molly Miller's family and Colt's family. I'm sure their heads are spinning right now, and their
I'm sure
heart.
they are.
And
Well, and they haven't been able to grieve yet. They still, this is the beginning for them too, because they're going to all go through grieving process.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even
So many
even
years.
though they've been sad for 13 years, now it's fine. Now it could be final.
Well, that's the
And-
thing,
and-
especially for Paula, because this has been her life's mission for the past
Right.
13 years. I mean, I know she's going to have
And Colt's family.
And
I mean,
Colt's family.
Colt's got I think he's a 13-year-old son now. He was 8
Yeah.
months when he went missing. I mean,
Right.
that's amazing.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know how you
Right.
kid what's going on.
I know. I can't even imagine what they're going through right now.
Yeah.
I hope it's relief. I do.
Yeah.
All
All right, Jody. Well, listen,
Good to see you, Jody.
good to see you, and I'm glad we had this news to report, and hopefully a positive movement in the Molly Miller and Colt Haynes case. And as soon as we hear any more, we'll share it with everybody. But thank you for staying with us, and we'll see you next time.
You bet. My pleasure.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
This is Coke Zero Sugar. With real Coca-Cola taste and zero sugar. Listen closely. Hear those bubbles? That's the sound of delicious real Coca-Cola taste and zero sugar. Ice cold. Ah. Coke Zero Sugar. Real Coca-Cola taste. Zero sugar.